I have found evidence that Boruto may have truly manifested the Jogan. It was all revealed in the last chapter, but it seems no one noticed. However, that will change today as I'm about to reveal everything. One of the biggest aspects of the Boruto series is the mysterious Jogan, a power that the anime heavily emphasizes but the manga barely shows, especially in relation to Boruto. This difference has led to confusion among fans, particularly when comparing the anime to the manga. Aside the filler episodes, it seems as though we are watching two different series. However, I can assure you that the Jogan does exist in the Boruto manga, although we haven't seen Boruto using it. We have seen it depicted, that is, when the Otsutsuki Dimension was shown. There, the Jogan is evident, literally part of the environment, suggesting that it is not a mortal's ability but one exclusive to gods. The only known god is Shibai Otsutsuki, who ascended to the god dimension on Earth. Consequently, Boruto's possession of the Jogan implies a connection to Shibai. Notably, Amado has modified his cyborgs with various abilities from Shibai. Given this, it's not implausible to believe that Boruto inherited the Jogan from an external source as well. Remember that Nagato also secretly received the Rinnegan, mistaking it for natural development. Similarly, in the anime, Boruto believes his eye to be a form of the Byakugan, which may not be too far from the truth, but more to that in a moment. If the Jogan is not part of the physical dimension, it's probable that Shibai, upon ascending after consuming the final fruit on Earth, and thus leaving his body behind, did not manifest the Jogan physically due to a lack of time. Instead, he may have left a trace of chakra that allows for its manifestation in those with the necessary DNA, such as a mix of Senju and Hyuga, with Boruto being the first person ever born with this combination. So the first Senju Hyuga suddenly has a new ability? That's not a coincidence. However, having that genetic mix alone does not seem to be enough, or else Himawari would also manifest the Jogan. It appears there must be an additional external influence at play. The Rinnegan is similar, possessing the DNA alone is not enough. It also requires time to manifest. It is entirely different from having an eye implanted directly, which does not seem to be the case with Boruto either. We don't know exactly how it happened, but since Himawari does not possess the Jogan, and considering that the Jogan is likely a Shinjutsu that cannot be replicated, we can logically conclude that whoever provided Boruto with the necessary attributes to manifest it could not do so for anyone else, and chose Boruto simply because he was the firstborn. To understand why Boruto can now manifest the Jogan in the manga, we need to consider a similar ability introduced in the Boruto series. This ability is the Tenseigan, and I believe it was introduced specifically to foreshadow the manifestation of the Jogan, especially because Toneri knew about the Jogan. The Otsutsuki clan on the moon possesses a unique DNA inherited from Hamura, which enables them to manifest the Tenseigan. However, the trigger for this manifestation, which unfolds over a significant portion of their lives, almost half, is actually a heritage of the Hyuga clan. For Moon Otsutsuki to unleash this power, they must take a Hyuga eye to activate the natural transformation into a Tenseigan. Considering this, it's clear that Himawari possesses not only the Senju DNA, which could serve as a substitute for the Moon Otsutsuki DNA in triggering the Tenseigan manifestation, but also the Hyuga eyes, assuming that Hagoromo inherited the same activating traits as Hamura. Similarly to Hamura's DNA, where the ability was passed to only one of the two subfamilies, it's possible the same occurred with Hagoromo, who likely passed this power to the Senju clan. This because the Uchiha clan had already received the Sharingan. Proof of this idea lies in the fact that just as the Moon Otsutsuki requires Hyuga DNA to manifest the Tenseigan, the Uchiha clan needs Senju DNA to manifest the Rinnegan. Thus, Himawari doesn't need the Moon Otsutsuki DNA to manifest the Tenseigan because she possesses the Senju DNA, and Demon has already proven that there's something unusual about Himawari. Now let's turn our attention back to Boruto's Jogan, but first we must note a very subtle and crucial detail. The Moon Clan members had to remove their eyes because although they carry the essence of the Tenseigan, they lacked the correct eyes to manifest it. Consequently, they had to remove their own eyes to make way for the Tenseigan. Likely, Himawari does not need to do this because she inherited her mother's eyes, Hyuga eyes. Boruto, on the other hand, did not inherit his mother's eye but has the blue eyes of his father. By that logic, if the Hyuga Byakugan is the eye that allows transformations based on specific genetic aspects within the user's body, then Boruto, even with the DNA of the Jogan, could never manifest it because he lacks the necessary eyes. So just as the Moon Clan had to remove their eyes, Boruto would also need to get rid of his normal eye to allow the Jogan to manifest. This is because once the normal eye is gone, it would likely be replaced by Momoshiki's Byakugan. And so Otsutsuki Byakugan retains the aspect of the Hyuga Byakugan since the Hyuga Byakugan originated from Kaguya, a normal Otsutsuki just like Momoshiki. Maybe that was Momoshiki's plan all along because essentially it's now his Jogan. However, as noted, upon removing their eyes, even the Moon Otsutsukis had to wait a considerable time. Therefore, logically, Boruto wouldn't be able to manifest the Jogan immediately after Kawaki cut his eye. It would more likely occur during the time skip. And now, a few years later, Boruto hasn't opened his eye so far. It resembles the first scene in Boruto where we see a teenage Boruto open his eye to reveal his Jogan. Similarly, Boruto hasn't opened his eye yet, and naturally we all await that moment. There's actually a little hint that this might be true, that is, Boruto seems able to control space and time because he was able to teleport to Konoha instantly. And there are only two possibilities. Either Boruto placed one of the toads on Code beforehand, likely during one of their encounters, possibly even the one when Code received his scar, and then used reverse summoning. But I think the logical conclusion is that Boruto didn't use reverse summoning at the beginning of this arc. This is because it's probable that Code has been living in that Otsutsuki Dimension and appeared from there to Konoha. If he had the frog with him all this time, Boruto would have already teleported to that dimension, which he hasn't. Therefore, he must have placed the toad during their confrontation in Konoha. This means his sudden appearance in Konoha must be due to another teleportation ability, a time-space jutsu. Boruto didn't trigger an alarm, he appeared without Sasuke, there was no movement, no one expected him and no one sensed him. And no one saw him arrive, he was just suddenly there. Looks a lot like a space-time jutsu. We also can't ignore the anime's hint that Boruto can use the Jogan for space-time jutsus, just like the Rinnegan. As mentioned, it could likely be reverse summoning in that instance, because here it will make sense for him to use the toad to locate the Otsutsuki Dimension initially, but once he knows where it is, he should be able to travel there on his own. And here's the thing, Boruto didn't give the impression that he wouldn't return to Konoha soon. In fact, he seemed to suggest to Sarada that he would be right back. He didn't say it outright but implied it by saying, "First survive, then I will explain everything." To me it seems like he's coming right back, but how? We see him begin teleportation with his toad, so he doesn't leave the toad behind, which means he can't reverse summon back to Konoha. One could assume that he either plans to absorb Code entirely, thereby gaining Shibai's ability, which might be possible by absorbing the rest of the Ten Tails as well, or he placed a third toad in Konoha. But a more logical approach would be that he simply uses his Jogan because he knows where Konoha is, and with that, the next chapter or the one after will be the perfect time to reveal the Jogan. So what do you think of this theory? Let me know in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have another idea? If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like, it really helps me a lot. And if you want to see more Boruto content, especially the Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 4 spoilers leaks, subscribe to my channel with the notification bell activated. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye!